Hello, I'm Isaac Carlson, and I discuss fun topics for fun people, and during this spooky time of year, we are going to explore a tale that is filled with ghosts, the undead, and of course, an egotistical villain. Today, we're discussing Lord Farquaad's ghostly return. It's true, Farquaad's mad reign did not completely stop when he was consumed by a dragon. Donkey's lover ate him so Shrek and Fiona could be together, and that did eventually kill him after Shrek's karaoke dance party, but eventually he returned from beyond the grave soon after his demise in an experience at Universal Studios known as Shrek 4D, which has also been documented in a Dark Horse comic book and as a short called The Ghost of Lord Farquaad.
Lord Farquaad, my, you're looking rather pale. Of course I am. I'm a ghost, you fool!
The story goes that after Shrek and Fiona's wedding, Farquaad manifested again, and with his return he used his most loyal servant Thelonious and his castle to imprison Shrek's fairy tale friends, the three little pigs, Pinocchio, and Gingy, all so that he could find out where the ogre had taken his bride. Obviously, he didn't have the same type of control he had over Duloc when he was alive, but he had enough to make the pigs squeal on the couple's whereabouts, which allowed Farquaad's plans to spring into action. Now, I don't really know why he was able to become a ghost while others like Fairy Godmother never returned, because I'm sure she would have smothered Charming for a few more years if she would have been given the chance. Some, like King Harold and Charming, were gone forever when they died. But you know, Farquaad was a different kind of guy. I mean, come on, he was obsessed with staring into the magic mirror. You know, maybe he was trying to learn all of the knowledge that was held within the spirit of the mirror. I'm sure he didn't have the mirror in his bedroom to just stare at images of Fiona while he was in the buff, right?
Perfect.
Regardless of what magic, curse, or resilience kept his spirit alive though, after Thelonious found Fiona traveling on her honeymoon, he tied her up, escaped Shrek and Donkey's pursuits, and gave her to Farquaad, which was where he revealed his intentions for her.
Soon you and I will be together forever. With you as my spirit queen, I'll be king of the underworld.
Over my dead body!
Exactly.
Yep, Farquaad was going to send Fiona over a waterfall to her death to ensure that he could finally have power in the afterlife. Because I guess he had become convinced that Fiona's position as a princess of far, far away would let him take over the land of the dead. How he became convinced of his own delusions, I'm not sure, but he was very committed to his pursuits. For some reason, he targeted Fiona over all of the other princesses he could have gone after, possibly because he was still convinced she was the perfect bride. It sure seemed through the way he described Fiona as his, attempted to flirt with her as she approached her death, and described her as his angel, that he had gone back to idealizing her as he once had before he had learned about her curse. It was almost like he was ignoring who she was and was constantly attempting to convince himself that she was a good match for him, something I definitely did not do in high school. But of course, Farquaad also wanted to pursue Fiona to not just get her, but also to spite Shrek for taking his bride and causing him an early death. Clearly, he was fighting for all of the best reasons: his ego, infatuation, and vengeance, which was not good because he was an unstoppable force that couldn't die again and had some abilities that made him a threat in a new way. As a Phantom of the Night, he no longer was able to solely control a population and an army, but as a ghost, he could enter and take control of the statues that were built to serve as a memorial to his life, which meant that he was able to send a stone dragon after Shrek and Donkey.
I know I seen you die in the first movie.
You fools! This time it's your turn to be the entree.
Of course, though, the statue had nothing on the real dragon, which meant that Shrek and Donkey were able to defeat the servant of Farquaad easily with some Star Wars-esque maneuvers. Man, everything's getting me excited for The Mandalorian Season 2. And with Donkey and Dragon assisting Shrek, he was able to return to his wife, have himself and his family saved from a drop off the waterfall, and encourage the scorching of Lord Farquaad's spirit before that little ghost could force Fiona to be his ghostly queen. But even though he seemed to be destroyed, the truth was that he was still dead and couldn't be defeated like a mortal, which was how he was able to continue to come after Shrek and Fiona. At some point after Shrek and Fiona's return from their honeymoon, when Farquaad still had servants waiting on him like Chef Pierre, he was convinced by a scoundrel known as Ferret in the second issue of Dark Horse Comics Shrek to allow him and his boy to go kill Shrek. With Farquaad's blessing, the duo did find Shrek and Donkey, but they did so at the same time that the ogre and Donkey were being courted to be eaten by a witch, witch, which meant that they were quickly removed from the premises. Hoping to still get the gold they were after from Farquaad though, they did come back when Shrek was being overfed by the witch, but then the witch turns them into sheep, the witch is melted by water by the ogre, and the criminals are forced to follow Little Bo Peep likely for the remainder of their lives, which meant that Lord Farquaad had been let down again. But then what happens to Lord Farquaad? Well, other than his appearance in a thriller-styled nightmare of Shrek's, we haven't really seen Farquaad again, which means that he could still just be haunting Duloc Castle. All we know for sure is that his presence in Duloc faded to a point where he wasn't able to keep his domain under control like he had been able to when he was alive, which is a topic I've discussed in depth that I'll leave linked below the like button. In short though, the people of Duloc were ready to be free and seemed to ransack the place until it was a far cry from what Farquaad had ever envisioned his kingdom to become. Duloc became a spooky, decrepit, and horrible place that the ghostly lord did not seem to be involved with anymore. Even when Shrek enters what's left of Duloc with his friends on Halloween night, and Fiona pretends to be him to scare Donkey, Farquaad never appears. For some reason, the gang just kind of forgets that they interacted with him, and Farquaad forgets that he was a ghost haunting them. Kind of a big oversight, but that's okay. The short was directed by Gary Trousdale, who directed Beauty and the Beast, so everything's forgiven. But why would Farquaad disappear after he dedicated so much of himself to go after Shrek and Fiona? You know, maybe he gave up on his quest. Perhaps he decided to remain hidden, or to leave Duloc to roam the world, or he could have just returned to the underworld. Maybe he just didn't want to fight anymore and became hopeless after so much failure. It's possible that losing the little power that he had retained through death crushed him, or he could have been forced to never return to the mortal world. We really don't have an answer. Farquaad's existence after death and his disappearance from the world were equally weird, frightening, spooky, and particularly mysterious. Fun people, consider subscribing and clicking the beautiful bell if you're new, and then click on another magical video in the description or on the screen. Finally, as always, thank you to my patrons, thanks for watching, have a magical day, and have a very wonderful Halloween.